Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Kent Mulgat. And we're joined by Tom Budd, a philanthropist and someone who likes to speak about mental health, and Jessica Samuels from the Canadian Mental Health Association. Thanks for joining us. So we hear a lot about Let's Talk Day. I think people are aware of it. But then what should people do is the question I'd like to address here. And Tom, maybe I'll start with you. Do you have any suggestions on what the best way to start a conversation about mental health is?
For myself, I try to provide a safe environment to people, and I go first. You know, if somebody asks me how I'm doing, I share my honest feelings. If there's a chance for me to tell my story, the tragedy that I endured, which touches mental health issues, I go first, and I make people feel comfortable. If they want to share their story, then they can.
Okay, let's start by getting the elephant in the room out there then. Jessica, you might have to just wait a moment here because I think by now a lot of people in Kelowna, Tom, have heard your story. A parent who lost not one but two sons to suicide. Just briefly, if you can, take us through that phase of your life.
Well, prior to my first son's death, Dylan, at just about 14, that was the happiest period of my life. He had left where he was living to come spend time with me or live with me. He wasn't happy before that, and you know, we had a great 7 months together. He was in counseling for some emotional issues. Counselor said he was fine, wasn't suicidal, blah, blah, blah. And one night I came home and I discovered him dead of a gunshot wound, and I can only call it, it's shocking, and yeah, my life basically came to an end and stood still at that moment. And then I had to deal with it again 2 years later with my oldest son, who suffered from depression, mostly because of the loss of his brother, and he wasn't dealing with it in a healthy way, bottling up his feelings. And I knew he was depressed, and I came home again unsuspecting to find him dead of a gunshot wound. From there, I actually didn't care whether I lived for a period of time.
But here you are, and you made the decision, obviously, to make discussions about mental health a focus in your life.
Since the loss of Dylan and with involvement with the Canadian Mental Health Association, I saw a need to go out there and help people talk and try to reduce the stigma around a host of mental health issues. And I've done that, and it's helped others, and it's helped me.
So, Jessica, what's it like to have someone like Tom to work with as you try to get this discussion going in the community and within families and friendships?
Personally, I've learned so much from Tom, from the way he tells his story, the way people interact with him and lean into the conversations. Tom really leans into the conversations. And in terms of not staying silent about how he's feeling, about what has happened in his life, about his sons, that is what is so important, whether it's a special day or any day of the year. The more we talk about it, the more people will talk about it, and the stigma will be reduced. I mean, it's tragic, and it's tragic to have, to know Tom and get to know him really well in the last year or so more in this way. But to have someone who is so passionate to be an advocate, to say, we need to talk about this. This is what happened to me. This is what happened with my sons. And I don't want it to happen to anyone else out there is crucial.
That's one of the things that Let's Talk Day is all about. So let's try to address our mission here, and that is what are the conversations we should be having? Who should we be talking to? You don't want to just walk around your office space saying, hey, let's talk mental health with everybody there. Mm-hmm. Who should we be talking to, and how do we bring it up?
For myself, I let people know that I'm going to be involved in Bell Media Let's Talk Day. And for myself, I sit in coffee shops with a sign that says Let's Talk, and I wait. And trust me, there's somebody that's going to sit down at the table and they're going to want to tell their story, but they might not go first, and I'll tell my story. And to me, it's about improving mental health, emotional wellness, avoiding depression and bad feelings, maybe providing a little joy and help. That's hope. That's my mission, provide hope. Show people they can get through anything, because look what I'm getting through.
Right.
I think, Ken, what's key in that is that because Tom's story has been out there, people have seen him be vulnerable. So there's a sense of safety. They feel secure in coming and speaking to him. They know that on some degree or some level that he will understand and be compassionate about the story they have to tell. And really that's where it comes from. Being compassionate, being understanding. Yes, most definitely. It would be tough to come up to a stranger that you knew nothing about and ask them, are you depressed? Do you have thoughts of suicide? These are individuals, whether it's through their speaking publicly, someone that you work with, someone that you know and love, a family member, where you notice they're not themselves. They're not doing the things that you know are not normal for them. And really that's where the conversation can start. I've noticed that you are not coming for lunches with the team anymore. I've noticed that you are not going for walks in the sunshine and you seem to be sleeping more. The things that you've noticed. If we approach from a level of compassion, empathy, understanding, then that individual knows that you are there for them. It's not prying, it's not digging, it's understanding.
Okay, so reaching out to people who you see signs about, what about the other people in your life that maybe are hiding it better? I mean, isn't there a conversation you should have with everybody close to you just to talk about, hey, how are you doing? How are you really doing? Or no?
I agree. I think we're talking about real connection, and that real connection comes from having those conversations every day. Most certainly we're being specific about if you see that somebody is not themselves, have the conversation. But your point is well taken, Ken. Yeah. If we have that empathy and that real connection every day, then we may be, are most likely able to open up those conversations and create that sense of security and empathy with the individual.
Is it happening? I mean, it's in the media, you know, we talk about it, but, you know, in our community, are these conversations happening more? Do you get the sense that they are?
I'm just going to take my personal experience. I can say for a fact 4 people have credited me with saving their life. I can take a look at my 10 best friends, and 3 of them have entered into depression since I lost my first, and I noticed it, and we got them talking, and one sought help. I get people weekly that'll come up and say they really like my posts on Instagram when I talk about mental health, and that gives me the chance to talk about sharing their feelings and ask how they are and eventually get something out of them. People are talking.
Yeah. Are you seeing that?
I would agree. I think we see both sides of the conversation. We see individuals who are sharing their personal story more, which is very important, reducing that stigma, not staying silent. And what we are seeing more, would be great to see more of our individuals, the other, if we have the 1 in 5 Canadians on any given year who may be suffering from a mental health issue, we're talking about the other 4 Canadians, the friends, family, co-workers, what have you, who are also starting that conversation. Like you said, having those everyday conversations or once a week.
Right.
It is happening, and knowing what to do with that information, because I think people want to help. Days like Let's Talk Day or when Tom speaks, people say, yes, I want to help, I want to do more. The challenge can be, and the fear can come with like, am I going to say something wrong? Am I going to do something wrong?
Right. So when you set up there the way you describe, and people come and talk to you, do you get the sense that they're unloading something that they haven't been with other acquaintances? Or
I would say sometimes yes and sometimes no. Sometimes I'll act like, for instance, tomorrow somewhere I'm going, I've had 2 people email my assistant to say they want to talk to me. They're pre-headed booking to come talk to me. I find that sometimes somebody will show up and they'll tell me something that nobody else has heard. And I got to tell you, it's sometimes hard for me to hear it, and it triggers me given the tragedies that I've had to go through, but I still have to listen and make them feel safe. And
yeah. You know, we all try to, it's sort of the human condition to accumulate stuff. And you've been very fortunate, right? You got great wealth, and that, which is how you came to be able to be a philanthropist. But it's living proof, isn't it, that our mental health is not measured by the square footage of our house or how many accumulated things we have. It's something. It's personal, and it's about human connections. Am I right?
Well, for me to answer the question, I have to have awareness of mental health itself and what it is, and to be emotionally well. And I accumulated such wealth probably because I was unbalanced and I didn't have all my own coping skills, and I overdid things and underdid things. And I'm well aware of that now, and I made changes once I became a parent. I can say that parents all worry about their children, but I didn't have suicide on my radar.
Right.
I had kidnapping and other things. And what I've learned is I can't control it, and I'm not immune, just like families aren't immune to alcoholism and addiction. You know, it can hit
right.
anywhere. And that's what I try to show people is that, you know, you need to be aware of it. It can happen anywhere, and there's things that you can do to improve it or maybe eliminate it.
Right. Well, parents all want to provide for their kids, but, you know, mental health. And is a parent always the right person? Sometimes young people need their peers, right? So what can a parent do? You know, the communication lines aren't always perfect there. Jessica, what's your suggestion if, you know, I mean, I've got teenagers. They don't always tell me everything, right? And if I feel that they need to talk, how do you facilitate that if it might not be me that they talk to?
I think knowing the resources in the community and who that support network for that individual is, yeah, I mean, as a parent, you want to be there. You want to hear everything. You like to think, even when you think that you have a great relationship, that may not be the case. And that's where, as a community, it's really important. CMHA, we operate Foundry Kelowna, and one of the great things about Foundry Kelowna is that we are working with the schools. We're working where kids are, whether it's the high schools or whether it's the hockey teams or the other sport teams, to encourage individuals who are in that youth's life to see those signs as well and be comfortable with having those conversations. So it will most certainly not relieve any parent from that feeling of responsibility, but knowing that there are others out there who are looking out. We're all looking out for each other.
Right.
When I'm talking to parents and I look at what was I thinking before my children died, and if I changed since they died on my view, and I'm about the same, and that's from my own awareness. And basically a couple of things is that parents are there to give their children information, and you know, and what you need to eventually have a joyous, happy, peaceful life. You need friends, you need a community, you need to have connections, like real friendships. And then you need to have the ability and the courage to share your feelings, your real feelings and thoughts. And if you do that and have both of those, chances are you'll be a little emotionally, you'll have better emotional health, and you'll have the ability to maybe avoid depression, which can then avoid other more serious things.
Yeah. You know, Jessica and I were chatting earlier on, and I think we also have to acknowledge that you know, you can do all the right things, you can make all the right overtures, and talking is part of that. But, you know, a person could still take their own life. There's no guarantees. You just got to reach out and do your best on these things.
So I can say that they say 80 to 90% will show signs if you're looking. Doesn't mean you're going to see them, but they show them when you look at it retrospectively. My son Peyton didn't really show the signs, but I knew he was depressed, and I had people checking up on him. I had people sneaking in. I was calling his university. I tried getting him into counseling. He went once and told my counselor, "I'm only going so my dad stops worrying." His journal's full of suicidal notes that I found after he died. He was severely depressed, but he wouldn't admit it. He wouldn't get help, and he wouldn't talk about it. And I was a guy that encouraged that for 2 years after his brother's death. So, you know, he was one of the temper, wasn't going to show it, wasn't going to admit it. There's nothing I could have done, and I have to accept that. It's painful. Yeah. It's really painful.
But it must run through your mind. You want a do-over, right? Like what? You know what?
I couldn't have done anything different. That's the thing, is that you just don't like. And he was a response. He's 19 years old. He knew I did my own counseling. You know, he knew the value of sharing with his friends. He wouldn't tell anybody he even lost his brother. So sometimes you can only do your best. That's what we're all supposed to do. That's why Bell Talk is a great chance for us to try to help others talk and to share our story. And then we've done our best.
It's a bit weird with cameras pointing at us, but how's your mental health?
Today, on a depression scale, being 30 really bad and 0 being nobody, I'm running at a 3. My emotional health is good, my mental health is good, I'm very aware of my feelings and my thoughts, and I'm pretty balanced. But I've had to work really hard at it for 4 years. Like I said, about a year ago, I didn't care whether I was alive, didn't care whether I died.
You were like 28.
It was a walking, I actually had scored a 26 last January, and I've done some trauma treatments.
So, you know, becoming an advocate for mental health is working for you to sort of build some purpose around all of this, I guess.
Right now it is my purpose, and I just go right now. Right now it's people are saying that I need it, people are saying that I'm providing a useful vehicle. It's making me feel good most days. I mean, I still cry every day, but I'm okay with that. That's the card I was dealt. But each day I know I help someone, and I look for opportunities. I spoke 10 times last year. I've got speaking engagements through to June this year. And I know I have an impact every time I speak. So, you know, I'd rather my old life back, but this is my life, and I'm going to live it the best I can.
Right. So I guess we kind of have to wrap this thing up now. Some final words. Jessica, and I'll go to you as well. Tom, you know, for Bell Let's Talk Day. Let's not let this blow by. What are some things that people who are watching this should do?
Well, people who are watching this should say, yes, it's Bell Let's Talk Day, and use this as an impetus to start conversations every day or whenever they see that there is somebody who may be struggling or they're worried about somebody. Approach the conversation with compassion. I care. I'm here to help. How can I help? And also, an interesting thing that came up as well is that inform yourself as an individual who is preparing to have those conversations and know what you may need as well. Tom mentioned that it can take a toll on him to be that individual in the community talking and receiving the information. And I think the overall element of that is taking an element of responsibility for our well-being. If I know that, as an example, if we're going into Bell Let's Talk Day, I'm going to be talking a lot about it. I'm going to be hearing a lot of conversations with people that are having them that maybe are feeling down. What can I do in those times outside of that to make sure that at the end of the day, at the end of this week, that I still have good well-being?
Yeah.
Take time, be gentle with yourself, show empathy to others, know that you're not alone, and ask for help where you can get it.
Somebody watching this is thinking, you know, I'm just not a talker, you know. But what's your advice to that person?
They can do a lot of help around mental health issues by being a good listener to someone then.
Right? Be a listener.
Be a listener. I talk, I try to break the silence, I listen, I care. Everybody can do one of those.
That's awesome. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
Thanks, Ken.
And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.